This is INCRadio, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesianicristo. And good morning, everyone, and welcome to Sunny Side Up Family Talks, a production of INCRadio Florida. I'm one of your hosts, Brother Robert Tabalas, coming to you from here in, I almost want to say sunny Florida, but it's really not today. It's kind of gloomy. And in fact, this morning, Sister Joy, you can appreciate this. We woke up to 36-degree temperatures, which should be illegal here in Florida. I honestly don't understand how they got away with that. You know, somebody left the door open and let winter in. That's what happened. So, but we'd like to welcome all of you to today's show because we've got a wonderful topic that I think a lot of folks have been asking about, and we're really excited to present it to you because, you know, one of the things that we've found is that a lot of some of our best topics are the ones that come straight from you, our beloved audience, who send us these ideas and say, hey, can you guys talk about this on the show? Because this is a real problem that we'd like to try to address. So, but before we do that, I want to toss it to a couple of my co-pilots that we've got here down in the central part of Florida. How are things over there in Orlando, Sister Joy?
Welcome, everybody. And here in the central Florida area of Florida, it is cold. So while you're on the coast over there on the west side, Brother Robert, it is still very cold here. However, okay, while you're experiencing like 30 degrees, we were getting 30-degree weather Fahrenheit for those who are, because we know we have a global audience, right? So 30-degree weather Fahrenheit here. I mean, throughout the week, it's 50. So I'm thinking like, okay, it's still sweater weather, but it's a lot warmer than what we were experiencing early week. So really nice. But it's no matter, again, the placement of the sun, no matter how gloomy the sky might be, it's always a sunny side up here on Sunny Side Up Family Talk. So we're so glad that you're joining us. We're really excited about today's topic because just like Brother Robert mentioned, this is not just a sensitive topic, but this is, again, very near and dear to all of our hearts because we're a family. You know, we talk about family here. So we're really excited to dive in. But before we dive in, for all of you who are viewing, again, because we know that we have a worldwide audience, please let us know, especially if you are listening or watching on the YouTube chat. Where are you tuning in from? Where's the placement of the sun in your skies? Because we always love hearing from you. But before we dive into our topic, let's go. We're just going to drive around the Central Florida area. And we're going to move over and say hello to one of our accompanying host over there, still here in the Central Florida area, Sister Lyda. How's it going?
Hello, good morning, everybody. Hello. I wanted to say actually what you said, Sister Joy, piggyback on that. It's so cold here, 30 degrees, right? It's cold to us, that my dad the other day said, oh, it's 50 degrees. It's not cold. So we're getting used to
ask a native Floridian that question.
Yes,
right?
Yes. We're getting used to the 30 degrees. And so my dad saw it was like 50 degrees and he was like, oh, that's nothing. It's fine. And he went out with like a short sleeve and a vest. And I was like, oh, we're not doing that, Dad. You have to wear it.
I love it. But doesn't that demonstrate how us, you know, here in Florida, how we just adapt to it? We're like, yeah, okay, we had 30-degree weather like for so many days, and then Dad's out there in short sleeves.
Yes. Yes.
Shout out for the heat.
Well, and you know the big thing about the weather here, so we'll wake up to 34-degree temperatures, and in fact this weekend there was, you know, and I don't know if this was meant to instill panic to us here in Tampa, but they were saying that there was a chance of actual snow flurries tomorrow morning because the conditions are about right. So we're officially on snow flurry alert. It'll be we're going to call it a flizzard, I guess, a Florida blizzard. We'll call it a flizzard.
I don't know. Maybe Sister Lyda and I might drive down there and try to make snowmen.
I will say, like, my car frosts sometimes, and then
it does.
You notice that, and then I'll use the windshield wipers, and then the little frost becomes little snow on like the side of my window, so that counts. I'm counting that as snow.
I love it.
All right. Well, we're so glad to have you here, Sister Lyda, because I think today's topic is going to definitely benefit from some of your insight. As between Sister Joy and I, you are the closest to having been a teen. Uh, my teen years are so far back in the rear view, I can't see them anymore. So it'll be a nice conversation because, one of the things, if you saw the promo, we were talking about how, one day as parents, Sister Joy, we're packing lunches for our kids, we're picking out their clothes. And the next thing we know, we wake up and we've got teenagers in the house. And the teen years are like, they're exciting, they're confusing, mostly overwhelming when we're trying to figure out what's going on with our kids. So hopefully today we can have this conversation where we could talk about how we're going to shift our communication styles, how the growing independence with our kids can be met with reasonable boundaries, and emotions and expectations have to be set. And most importantly, I'm hoping that parents will understand what to expect for those of you that have children that are just about entering that phase of their life as teens, and hopefully preparing you for that. So whether your child is a brand new teen, Sister Joy, you've got one who's 14, so just over that hump. They're quickly approaching it. We're hoping today's show is going to help you feel a little bit more confident, hopefully a little more prepared, but most importantly, a little less alone, because you are not alone. We've been through there. I've survived 2 teenage kids that have grown into adults, and let's just hop right into the conversation and see if
Brother Robert, they say that it takes a village, and I am a firm believer of that. It truly does. And our conversations today, I think, will really will prove, right, that it does take a village. I mean, parenting it's tough. It's tough. And to be the teen, I know that you said that it's been a long while, but I mean, I remember my teen years too. It's tough to be a teen, right? There's so many things going on, and definitely want to dive into that and talk about
it. Well, it's funny. So let's we've got a little bit of time. What is your fondest memory about being a teenager?
For me now, as an adult, looking back, I'm like, man, I didn't have all the responsibilities that I have now being an adult. I didn't have a mortgage to pay. I didn't have all those types of things. But my fondest memory was just enjoying life. You could do those
free, right?
Yeah, you feel that. There's some freedom to it. But looking back at that moment, what I was feeling was that I didn't feel like I was experiencing freedom. I felt more, I think I didn't feel free, but looking back, I'm like, man, I was free.
There was so much freedom, right? It's and like for me growing up, there's no secret here. I grew up in the 80s, right? So I was a teenager right there in the early 80s, just learning how to drive, and just feeling so, I guess the common word everyone says is it's feeling so free with how, not feeling as if there's anything that can stop us. Because I think that's one of the things that a lot of teenagers experience, is that when they kind of transition into the teenage part of their lives, they feel like the whole world is a possibility. There are no limitations. We're indestructible, right? As evidenced by the way sometimes we behaved. Like, we're indestructible. Nothing can hurt us. We could do like literally anything. And it's the harsh reality of adulthood that kind of teaches you those boundaries. And we're hoping that as parents, we can kind of prepare our kids to understand where those boundaries are earlier, so it's not quite a slap in the face, right? What about you, Sister Lyda? You're, like I said, you're the closest to having been a teen. What are some of your fondest memories, or what do you remember about being a teenager?
I would say there was a moment that I became 13 that I remember that exact feeling, Brother Rob, when you said, like, you just feel invincible. You just feel like you're the best person in the world. And then you start acting up. Like, I specifically remember doing that. Like, there's this one moment, we were at the mall, and I remember my mom she was like, you can't have those shorts. And I was just so upset. I don't know why I was so upset. But I look back on that now and I'm like, why was I so mad that my mom said I can't have these shorts? Like,
was it because of the price, or was it because they weren't
literally
appropriate for your age?
It was just because, like, no, like, you have shorts at home. And
Such a mom thing to say.
Yeah, I was like, and so now when I look back on it, I was like, wait, that's so true. Like, there was nothing special about these shorts. I just remembered this moment. It wasn't even like short shorts. It was just like mid, like kind of like almost capris. I just remember that. And I remember being
it's just
like,
the
wow.
mom thing.
Yeah, I was like, wow, I was such a brat. That was not cool of me. Shouldn't have done that. But I remember feeling that exact feeling, Brother Robert. And,
but you know what, though? What you could have said, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this commercial. I think it's the most classic commercial ever. There's a child sitting in the backseat of a car, and mom pulls up to a drive-through at a coffee place, right, to order coffee. And then the kid sitting in the backseat goes, I want a cookie. And the mom, while she's sitting in the drive-through to buy her coffee, says, you have cookies at home. And then the child says, you have coffee at home. so the mom has to say, okay, I'll take a cookie too. So you could have said that. You could have said that.
Compromise.
But you didn't, right? All right. Well, and these are some great examples of, I think, what we want to be able to hopefully bring around some understanding and some context for our parents. Let's just dive right in. So we've all got a teen now, right? So what actually changes in those teen years? Because this is like the great mystery.
Yeah.
Sister Joy, we talked about this before the show. Like, what they change. Like, I've heard some parents come to me and say, like, my child has mutated. This is not the child that I've raised, because now they're a teenager.
Yeah. It is like that. Like, even in Sister Elida's example, right? You look back, you're like, did I mutate at that moment? Like, I wanted those shorts so bad. And then, it is. There's a lot.
For boys, like boy moms, I've talked to some moms who have teenage boys, and they're like, yeah, they're not the same anymore.
No,
they smell. They
smell.
They don't talk the same anymore. And I think the thing that parents have to understand is it's part of a natural development, right? Mm-hmm. And let's just talk primarily about the other stuff, the biological stuff. Yeah. That's different, right? So deodorant's an important part of teenage boyhood, but the brain development is what we really need to focus on, because teenage brains, children's brains develop from when they're infants all the way up through, and some wives will tell you up until we're like past 30. Men's brains are still developing, but brain development is an ongoing thing, right? And as it's doing it, a lot of it is emotionally driven.
Yes.
And for teenage boys, teenage girls, there's a lot of emotion that's involved before it starts to become logic. So they haven't experienced, and I always say this, it's because they haven't experienced life yet. A lot of what we do, Sister Joy, is because the decisions we make, the way that we approach things, didn't come from us just miraculously knowing it. It came from years of experience, right? You've had to go through tough times to experience what tough times are like, to learn how to be resilient, to learn all these things. Teenagers who are just transitioning, who've lived at home, who lived under the guidance and protection of their parents, they haven't experienced it yet.
Yes.
So it's a lack of experience that causes them to react sometimes the way they do. So there's still that development. We got to understand that. Then you get to the point where, and Sister Elida, I want to know, at what point did you start to feel like, I need to be more independent? I need to be more autonomous.
I want to say when I was 13. Like that.
You were 13?
Yeah, like I remember that story. I mean, maybe that was like the beginnings of like, I want to do it myself. Like I just felt like such a grown up in that moment. And I was like, man, I really wasn't. I don't know why I was going crazy at that time. But I would say more appropriately, like okay, yeah, you're supposed to be autonomous at that age. Probably when I was 18. I actually asked my dad around that time. I was like, Dad, I feel like I should know how credit cards work. Like, how do I build my credit, and how do I do that? Because I wasn't.
Well, that's such a scary thing for dads.
It is.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, not this talk.
I know. So he was like,
yeah, it's not the other talk. It's the talk about credit cards that we're more scared about.
Yes. So So I just remember asking, and yeah, I feel like around that age, that's around the time that I'm like, okay, maybe I should actually start to know how things work, like the real life works. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's how I started asking my parents, like how that all that works. So
Oh man, you know what? I told a story, I think right before we came on. Sister Joy and I were talking about this whole desire for increased independence. Now, I'm going to share a story, but I'm not going to reveal any names to protect the innocent, right? So I have a daughter, but I'm not going to name any names. Um, and so my daughter proceeds to at one point tell my wife, her mother, that she wishes that her dad didn't baby her so much because you do all this, he does this for me, and I don't get to do it on my own. I'm never going to learn. I feel like I'm just not gaining the independence that I need because he just babies me too much. And then he buys me this when I need it, and I say that I want something and I get it, whatever. So now I said, fine, then I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm just going to, you roasted me, then
Like
I'm not just going to do
The
it.
big
I'm
boy
not gonna
thing
do
to
it.
do, right? Fine.
That's right. That's fine.
I'm
I'm
not
not
going to
going
do it anymore.
I'll have that same week, that same daughter then comes up and says, Papa, can I have some gas money? What happened to being independent? That's not how it works.
Well, Mama wasn't around. That's why.
If you're going to be independent, then figure it out. So, but again, not using any names to protect the innocent. But the thing is that is literally what they're going through. There's a struggle that's happening in between them wanting their independence, but still not knowing how to solve problems yet.
yes,
It's a learning process for them, right? Because you and I, we don't have gas money. We figure it out, right? I don't know. I may call my 85-year-old grandma, my 85-year-old mom for money, but that's, we learn to figure things out. So this is the struggle the kids are going through. It's their desire for wanting more independence and autonomy, but not understanding yet how to fix it. Yeah. And that's what we have to teach them, right? Mm-hmm. Natural tendency as parents, we're just going to give it to them. Like, sure, here you go. Mm-hmm. And I did give her a little grief because I said, didn't you just roast me to your mom about like you wanted to be more independent, that I do too much? So that's one of the things.
Not gas money. That's not applicable for gas money.
Yeah, gas money.
Let's make that known now.
It's everything else but gas money.
There you go.
It's fine print.
You know what really drove the issue was because I quickly realized if I didn't give the gas money, I'd have to drive her. So I said, here,
like, all right.
take the credit card. So that's one struggle. The next is, and this is where I think it's tough, is when they get to their teenage years, right? Because they're in middle school, transitioning into high school. They become teenagers in middle school, right? Around 13, 12? That's middle school. That's around. You start to notice the shifts in friendships, right? And their identities and their values that they're exposed to. Now, this is an important part because it's different for us here in the church, Sister Joy. You want to explain why that is and what the focus is for kids in the church here in the Iglesianicristo?
Oh, yes, 100%. Like as we mentioned, and as you mentioned, that teen, that tween stage, right? There's a lot of things that are going on to influence them when it comes to friendships, because while their brains are developing, so is their crowd, right? So especially when it comes to being in school and doing all these things, all of that stuff is going on. But I do have to say, one of the most wonderful things that we have and resources that we have, especially as being members of the Church of Christ, is there's an organization, which you'll hear us reference all the time if you're just joining in with us, is the CFO, or the Christian Family Organization. And this is an organization in the Church of Christ where it represents all the seasons of life. So we have CWS, which represents those that are, 4 years or just roughly about 4 years old, and they're cognitive now. They're able to follow directions, and they're able to participate in worship services. And then we have maybe about that teen stage now, that tween stage, around 12 years old, between 12 years old to about 17 years old. And this is the time. This is the CFO, or the organization, that's called INCRadio. And this is it. Actually, the translation for Binhi is seedling, because that is exactly what it is, right? We're talking about the brain development during the stage period. It's a seed, right? And it's sprouting. So it's still in the process of growing and learning and absorbing all the things that are around it. So it's just so nice that we have an organization designed specifically, right, for that season of life. And then we have Kadiwa, which is, the young adults. And then we have Buklud. Buklud are those that are married. So it's so nice that we have these organizations, because it's just not an organization name. It's just not to, okay, you're classified, this is the group that you belong with. There are activities that are designed for each of these categories, that embraces the Christian family, that embraces values, that are designed for, not just as a family as a whole, but this is designed for those that are in those specific those specific seasons, especially for our Binhi. So you'll hear me reference that a lot, especially as we're talking about the teen stages, right? Binhi, this is our chance, parents. I mean, it's important that while our children are, of course, while they're infants, it's so natural for us. We're going to care for them, right? But this is one thing that we need to put in the care plan. Let's involve them, not only when it comes to CWS, bringing them to children's worship services, but especially even in those tween stages, let's involve them in those CFO, Christian Family Organization activities. Binhi, whatever the activity is, there is something designed for them. And if it's not their thing, it's okay. And I love how there are things that are designed for everything that you like, right? There's sports, if you like sports, and it could be even like an esports type thing. There's music, arts, culture, there's things like that. And this is not just specific to our Binhi or our teenagers. This is for each season, right? There's that. Then there's leadership development. We have those types of things. There's like social development committees. And those are not just committees, but these are events, activities that are designed around this. So as a parent, I'm holding your hand, when it comes to this. Let's involve our kids when it comes to these things. And it's just a beautiful thing. And it might feel naturally, if this is something new, it's okay. And let your children know it's okay if you feel a little awkward. It's okay if you feel a little out of place, but it's the right place to be. Because these activities not only are designed, to involve us, but they hold a deeper meaning, because it holds our values together as our Christian values, as members of the Church of Christ. And this is the type of influence. These are the type of friendships. This is the identity that we want our children to be around. This is what we want to be around, right? So there's that saying too, even as adults. I mean, tell me who is it, like, tell me the 5 people that you hang out with most, and I can tell you who you are. Well, right. So let's do that for our kids too. We want them to be around those who have the same values. And yes, school is going to influence them. Teachers are going to influence them. And that's okay. But we want to concrete the foundation, right? Where they have these things. And we're so blessed, especially as members of the church, that we have organizations like this, that we have a church administration that cares so deeply to make sure that we have these type of things. And, not just only in the Christian Family Organization, there are other things, there are responsibilities that they can take on. And when you hear that word, you're like, responsibilities for my team. Yes, this is good, healthy responsibilities. Like, there are things in the CWS. They might be teens, but you can help the children's worship service. You can help watch the young children. So there are offices and responsibilities that you can take in that. There are things, and we have a choir, right? So, I mean, if you got a pair of pipes, so that's a wonderful place where it's a music outlet, and it's not just that, but there's such a deeper purpose in it, because we're doing it not just for ourselves. We're doing it for ultimately, the one who created us. And it's just such, these parents, please I will hold your hand. We'll hold our hands together. We can cry together. It's hard. It will be hard, especially if this is something new, but let's do it. We'll do it because we have to go back to, like, when our kids were small. we remember, we'll, like what you said, Brother Robert, we're going to feed them. We're going to, if they need something, we're there for them. This is something that they might not say, I need this, but they do need this.
Well, and it's primarily because they don't know that they need it. Remember, again, we're dealing with a lack of experience. So without that experience, having already gone through it, they don't know what it is they need. How many times does that happen to us where we're like, I wish I knew this when I was a teenager, right, Sister Lida? I mean, I'm sure that there's stuff you've gone through now that you're like, man, I wish I knew this, so many years ago.
Are you thinking about those shorts? Man, I know I didn't need those shorts.
Oh, I needed those shorts.
Okay. But yes, I agree. I grew up in the part that Sister Joy was talking about, how your parents, they involve you, or when you're kind of young. I get the feeling of like, oh, I feel like I'm here because of my parents. But I feel like that saying changes over time, right? In that moment, you're like, okay, I'm here because of my parents. But then you get older, and I feel like I'm old, but older than 13.
Oh, trust me, you are not old.
I feel like I am. But now I say to myself, it's like that feeling changes from like being forced to now I'm like, oh no, I'm here because of my parents, like I'm here because of the way my parents built me and how they raised me to prioritize church, prioritize our membership, prioritize going to those events, because that's where you truly find those foundations that really matter, like Sister Joy was saying earlier. So I wouldn't have had that if I didn't have that when I was younger. If they didn't tell me, hey, go to the Benhi meetings, hey, make sure you go to that Kadila meeting, like, or make sure you're an officer. So that change and that meaning and that phrase of, oh, I'm here because my parents, it changes into like you're kind of paying homage to them, like I'm here because of the way that they raised me, and I'm always forever grateful for that.
That is so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And you know what? She should have let you buy those shorts.
Now, right? We should go back
now. But what I think really the point of all this is that when we talk about this particular bullet point about what changes in teens is that friendship and identity and the values that they're exposed to at that point can be mitigated. It can be handled as long as they grow up with the same people, because when you are a Benhi and you grow up as a Benhi and you guys are active and you participate in the activities and you go on, on all of these different journeys together, you do that also as a Kadiwa. It's the same friend group, right? That's the way that you are able to sort of offset the risk of them being detached and then now hanging out with maybe a different crowd. Because then that different crowd may have different values and maybe they have a different way of looking at the world, where keeping focused on what's important, especially for us as members of the Church of Christ, is what really helps to make and create that solid foundation for them, right? And parents, they are going to push back, right? As they become teens and you're looking at, oh, well, this is what they were like when they were little. I was able to control every aspect of their life. I controlled when they eat. I controlled when they slept. I controlled this, and this. And now all of a sudden, I start to not have that same level of control anymore. And then there's this kind of evolution. And then now there's this pushback that we're seeing, right? No, I'm not going to go to bed at this time. No, I'm not going to eat. And as a parent, our first reaction is like, oh, yeah? So then you are not going to have your iPad time. I'm turning off the Wi-Fi code. I'm going to take away your keys for the car. You're not going to drive. You're not going to. And immediately we view that behavior as rebellion. And it's not really rebellion. It's them still trying to develop. And conditionally what happens is that if we start to inflict our sort of authoritarian position where we're saying, okay, then I'm taking away your iPad. And this is like, even at a young age, right? We're doing this. There's a consequence to you not doing what I'm asking you to do. So then they'll actually start to do it, but they're doing it out of compliance. Yes. They're doing it out of what we call a strategy, right?
Yeah.
And the strategy is, if I want to keep my iPad, I'm going to do the dishes. Instead of it coming from a place of, well, I better do the dishes because mom's had a really rough day, or
I
it's
feel
my
like,
part.
Brother Robert, I think that is a great point that you're mentioning, because before I used to think that way, where it's like, oh, but I think it helps me remember, like, okay, if I don't do what is obviously going to help my parents, then something's going to happen. Like I feel like when you're young, you kind of need that. Like you
That's
Yeah.
kind of
such a,
need
I'm
that
so glad that you brought
feeling.
that up, because it isn't malicious, right? And I think
Yeah.
as parents, sometimes, we're so used to controlling those those are like external controls, right? That we were able to like really have good control over before that teen stage where, where you become a little bit more independent, more opinionated and stuff like that. And then you're like, but that's what I was thinking. It's true. And it's not, it wasn't coming from a place of like, oh, I'm going to get my mom for that. I'm not going to get my dad for that. It's just, like you said, you're like, oh, okay, something shifts, right? But at that moment, you're like, oh, okay, that's what was kind of connecting at the time, right? You're like, okay, I better do this so that I don't get punished for whatever reason, right? I don't get this revoked from me.
Exactly, yeah.
But
And I think later on you have that, it turns into the one that Brother Robert was saying, where actually I need to do this because mom has had a hard day. Then that empathy comes from later, like later.
yeah,
I wonder how to show that, or like how to encourage that empathy in the early years, because I feel like for me, it definitely came a little bit later, where I realized, I'm like, oh man, my dad had to get up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. to get ready for work. I am not going to bother him with 80 questions when he gets home. Like it goes back to like that feeling of like, oh man, then you start to think of, oh wait, they work so hard for me, they do all these things for me. I feel like that comes with age. But now I want to ask you guys, how do you inflict that at a young age?
Oh my goodness. Did you like read ahead on the slides?
yeah.
Because it's literally going to be the next thing we're going to
Is
talk
it
about.
really?
So the key
Perfect.
takeaway,
Perfect
from this
segue.
slide. Let's start with the key takeaway from this slide, though. It's change is normal. Okay,
Yeah.
parents, change
Yeah.
is normal, and it's not a sign that you're failing. This is the process. This is every teenager goes through this. It manifests itself maybe differently with each child, but they all go through the same thing. So let's make that clear. So just because this happens to your kids, you see this change, you see this transition, you may see some things that you think are rebellion. It's not. It's just their development. But did I click on the wrong slide? This is the one that talks about, this is about the boundaries and consistency and how your role shifts. But this is the one that Sister Elida is talking about. And I really want to talk about this. This is where that transformation happens, Sister Elida, right? It's communication, because talking less and listening more as a parent is so important, because we need to better understand our kids in order for us to be able to better connect with them. Does that make sense?
100%. Connect before we correct. Right. And that goes, that's just in general, even for us as adults, right? If someone's going to come over us and say, you need to do this, you need to do that, whether it's the boss man or whatever, you're like, he doesn't understand me. Like I had other things.
Right.
So what more for our children, right? It's like we have to connect first, and it's a lot harder to do. It's very intentional, and it's going to require some exercise. And like what Brother Robert said, it's a key takeaway. It's progress. We're not going to get it right the first time, but let's keep going at it. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, and we've got to realize that lecturing isn't always the answer, right? As parents, that's kind of our initial reaction to everything is we're going to lecture you, and I'm going to tell you why what you did was wrong. And I'm going to lecture you about why what you need to do is what I'm asking you to do. It's not giving them really the context that they need. It's something that is important, is that we need to understand the perspective of where they're coming from, what their experiences have been, maybe what they're going through, because a teen's perception about life today is mostly shaped around what they see in social media.
Yes,
It's what they see. Right? It's what they see on their Instagram feed or on their other socials feed. And that's what they perceive life, whether it's values, politics, lifestyle things. All of that is being fed to them. And as parents who, if we're not following the same people that they follow, if we're not seeing the same stuff that's being presented to them in their story, then we're not going to have the same perception as they do. So it's important that we kind of take time to listen and understand where they're coming from before we start to lecture them about it.
Yeah.
And, lecturing is just, it's a normal thing. Like for some parents, it's like immediately we go into lecture mode.
Yes.
Like instantaneously. And then the tendency is kids will shut down. They're going to shut down. They don't hear anything anymore.
Yeah.
So we're just basically talking to ourselves. So it's important for us to be more curious. So to your point, Sister Lyda, we need to understand our kids by being more curious about what it is, where they're coming from and why they're coming from there. Like, what is it exactly that led you to feel the way that you're feeling or to express yourself the way that you're expressing yourself to me? I want to understand it. Like, sincerely, as parents, we need to be more sincere, honestly. So that way our kids know that we don't want to be just the authoritarian carrying a big stick. We want to actually try to, and this is where that we had this conversation, I think last year, about the border that we have to create between being friends, right?
Yeah.
Can you still be your child's friend, but still be their parent? And you have to be.
Yeah.
You can't relinquish that being a parent because that's your responsibility. So we want to ask better questions, maybe pick better moments for things. I think a couple of weeks ago we talked about that, like knowing the temperature of the room, knowing when to ask the right questions. It's not just for husbands and wives, it's for communicating with your kids too, right? And then dads, it's tough for dads. Like when we see, like if I see my daughter crying or something, it's tough because we don't know. We just want to fix things, right? So we don't want to necessarily talk about it. We want to know who we need to beat up. We want to know what is it we need to go find. We need to know, how much is it going to cost me to fix this? It's just, we're immediately in that problem-solving mode versus was sitting down and say, hey, talk to me. And then only to find out it was because she was watching something on Netflix.
I think my dad did that to me too. I think I came out of my room and he was like, you look sad. And I was like, oh, I'm sick.
Yeah, right. And it's like the minute we see our daughters like upset or their eyes puffy, we're like, what happened?
Yes.
What happened?
Yes.
And it's just crazy. But that's, it's parental instinct. So we need to learn to back up a little bit more and understand the context.
That's a dad instinct for sure.
For sure.
100%. And your thing that you brought up here, Sister Joy, about making sure that we can do that, make that connection before we start to try to correct them. Before you pull the trigger, make sure you know and understand what it is that you're dealing with. And keeping those conversations open. It's so hard. I think, having like a real, what we'll call a real conversation with your parents is kind of an awkward thing to do for some people, right? Yeah. I don't know for you, Sister Lyda, like with your parents, was it always comfortable to just kind of have like a serious conversation with them? Or did you feel more like awkward, like, oh, I can't talk to them about this stuff?
I would say at first, I think there was times that I feel like my parents didn't understand me, or I felt like they don't think that I also get sad, or that I also don't have bad days, or like I also don't have like problems with my friends or whatever.
Well, that's because you always look so happy. Every time I see you, you're like so bubbly. I'm
right.
Like,
and I think
have a problem in the world.
Yeah, I think that's part of that's just part of me, I feel like. But even like when I would talk to them, I'd be like, I catch myself getting like a little bit of an attitude, or I catch myself saying something a little rude, and I'm like, oh, why did I say that? Sometimes I wish my parents thought like, oh man, why did she say that? I hope she's okay. Did something happen at school? Did something happen at work? Sometimes I have to tell them like later, I'm like, hey, sorry, I acted that way, but this is what happened. And it wasn't always comfortable. And I feel like before, when I would say that, maybe they kind of saw it as like I'm explaining, or I'm what is it called? Kind of like defending my rudeness, right? Like I'm like, oh, I was rude because of this,
Like just
but
justifying it.
right, just to justify it. And so I'm sorry, I'm a little bit sick.
It's very emotional going back to these times.
Are you sad right now?
I'm sad. I'm just kidding. But I remember it being really hard to do that. So all I did was pray every day, and I had a set prayer to tell God about my feelings that I was feeling. And I was like, please God, I really, really want to tell my parents, and I want them to understand. Please help them have an open heart whenever I talk to them, because I just feel like I'm not heard here. And of course, when you bring your problems to God, he will listen. And it got easier and easier from there. And I realized, like, oh wow, like prayers, like, come on, like it's going on. Like it was like a kind of turning point for me. I think that was around, I would say preteens, like around, well, not preteens, but like maybe 13, 14, like that really developmental age. I think we were talking about it earlier when we're like Benhi, going into that Kadiwa, you're surrounded by more people. So yeah, it's more influential.
I'm going to go way back to the very beginning when you mentioned, like, when you sometimes are like, maybe you might throw a little bit of attitude, but you don't realize it till later, right? When you did it. And you kind of wish that maybe your parents could have at that moment said, hey, that was kind of inappropriate, or, hey, what's up? Something wrong, kind of a thing immediately.
Yeah.
Where I think parents sometimes tend to like dismiss it.
Yes.
Rather than addressing it. And that's a perfect example, because if you do that because something's bothering you and you kind of snap at them a little bit, and it may not even be anything like huge, had they gone to you and said, hey, something wrong? Like, what's up? Like, why are you being so short with us, kind of a thing, that would have opened the door for you to be able to say, yeah, kind of this happened, whatever. But I think as parents, our tendency is like, oh, she's just being disrespectful.
Right. Right.
And we kind of dismiss it, right? We just kind of go on with the day thinking that our kids are just being rude and disrespectful. Instead of like, there's something going on, maybe I should ask her. And then that kind of opens the doors a little bit. So seeing those kind of like flips in behavior, especially for like you, because you're normally so happy and whatever, to see kind of that change should be a red flag as parents that we should pick up on. And more importantly, not just pick up on it, but do something about it by saying, is everything okay? Is there something that, we can talk about? And I think that's a really valuable lesson. That's kind of that exact point of making that connection with your kids.
Yeah, you've got
trying to correct them, right? Because the correction part would have been, don't talk to me like that.
Right. And
go to your room.
I will say there were moments where that would happen. I'd be like,
yeah, of course. Well,
I'm so sad.
Natural.
Yeah, I just remember.
That's natural, right? You're kind of going through this thing and you're sad and you're wanting to talk to them, but instead you get to go to your room. Don't be disrespectful to your mom. Don't whatever. Instead of, hey, let's sit down and let's have a talk, because it seems like something's really bothering you, right?
I think that was one of my prayers, I think, as well. To have the courage to tell my parents these problems or like these things in a way that it doesn't seem rude, or like in a way that it doesn't seem like I'm like talking back or anything. And like it's I know you guys were saying like, oh, it's from the parents, but also I'm talking to all the kids out there. It comes from us too. You gotta think to yourself, it's kind of, you got to meet your parents halfway. So if maybe they don't know to ask the questions because they also weren't raised that way either. So I feel like kids who are still with their parents, you gotta meet them halfway. Our parents go through a lot too, and sometimes they don't know when's the right time. And sometimes, isn't that right, Sister Joy? Do you feel like
well said? I think 100%. And one thing, I have to bring this back. I have to totally bring this back. We're on the topic of communication, right? This is clear testimony. Like when you're like, I'm confused, I don't know what to do. We're going to bring it back to the values. You mentioned how you prayed. as members of the Church of Christ, right? Again, we are encouraging communication, and there's no better communication than praying to the one who has created us, right? And for as a youth member, if you remember going through this stage, Sister Elida, where you talk to God, who is our friend, right? And you just poured it all out. Even as youth members, God is listening. It doesn't matter, right? We're taught to pray because we can communicate with God. And when you're like, God, I have this problem, I want to do something better. Why not? Why wouldn't God want to help us out in that? And, just going through that process, we experienced, you learn from it, right? And you grow from it. It wasn't very comfortable, I'm sure, through that process, but those prayers are what got you through. And going back, when just as a parent, that just brings such joy to my heart to know that, you go back to those values when you don't know what to do. When your friend group, you're like, okay, they're going through the same problems. Those are the values that will help you through those tough times. So parents, let's do it. Our kids might be a little bit uncomfortable going to those activities, to participating, to maybe holding on those responsibilities, as officers. But that is what will ground them during the hardest times. When you were like, I really don't know what to do. Oh, I can pray.
I agree.
And that's right. And that got you through it. And while you are praying, I say this for all parents, us parents, we are fervently praying and asking for the very creations that God blessed us with. You guys are right. Our children are gifts to us, and we want to take care of those gifts. And sometimes we mess up too, but we're also praying like, oh, how do I take care of this gift? I want this gift to, we want what's good for our children and our kids too. And so all the more, can you imagine, as our Creator hears those prayers both from parents and our children, he's, I got you, this is, don't worry, things are going to work out. So it's just
that is such a beautiful sentiment. And you know what, that's one of the things that I think is such a driving force for those of us that are in the Church of Christ, is that, we know that we're not in this alone. We're not in this alone, not only because we have each other and we have our family and we have our fellow officers that help us, and of course our beloved church administration, but more importantly, we have God who helps to guide us through and navigate these things, right? I think that's what gives us the confidence to be able to go forward and continue them. We're so glad that we were able to have this extended version of our show today, because typically we're the fastest 30 minutes, but still apparently we're still the fastest 45 minutes on radio, because even with that, we still got so much more that we could talk about in an upcoming episode. We'll definitely have a part 2 of this, because I think there's still a lot more to unpack, a lot more that's going to help these parents in kind of adjusting and understanding their teens. But before we go, we've got to thank, of course, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, our beloved executive minister who helped to support this program, Brother Angelo Rania Manalo, our deputy executive minister, Brother Wally Tarai, our station manager, Brother Manly Andaya, our wonderful executive producer. And of course, here in the District of Florida, we want to thank Brother Gary Garcia, who is our district minister, Brother Solomon Hovis, our assistant district minister, and then also Brother Alfie Villanueva, our CFO advisor. We want to thank everyone here in the District of Florida and Caribbean who joined us today. Especially, I did see quite a few shout outs from our friends down there in Miami. Thank you so much for watching. But please stay tuned, because we're definitely going to have a follow-up episode to this show today. But for now, this is Brother Robert Tabalas here in Tampa for Sister Joy, that happens to be there in Orlando, and Sister Elida in Orlando as well. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week on the Sunny Side Up Family Talks.